Morning and a very warm welcome to the India Pavilion as we begin our session on smart and sustainable transportation. You on? Are we live? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, public transportation pretty much determines the size and the livability of a city. It impacts the social, economic, and greenhouse gas emissions uh, of how people live in a city and how they kind of work in the city. There has been world over an urgent need to shift to more sustainable modes of transportation to make it easier for people to travel less while managing the greenhouse emissions. So we have expert panelists with us today. I'm delighted to inform the presence of Mr. Jaydeep, who is the officer on special duty, urban transportation, Government of India, to take you through a session with this session. I have Dr. OP Agarwal, who is not just the chairman for FICCI group on future for transportation, future of mobility, but also the CEO of WRI. He brings with him a very vast experience of both public and private sector. He has been with the government. He has been an advisor on urban transportation with the World Bank, and currently the CEO of WRI. So, Dr. Agarwal, over to you to take the session forward.
Thanks, Nirja, and a very good morning to all of you. Welcome to this session on smart and sustainable transport. The focus of this session is on urban transport, particularly mass transit systems. So just to give you a quick background, India right now, in 2011 census, had about 370 million people living in cities. The rough estimates today are it's crossed 400 million. And by 2050, we expect to see about 820 million people living in cities. Some of the Indian cities are soon going to become the biggest in the world, most populous in the world. Delhi is a little short of Tokyo right now, but in the next 5 to 7 years, it's expected that Delhi will cross Tokyo. So that's the size of our cities. Many others will soon become among the top 5 most populous cities in the world. Now, in a situation like that, with these kinds of numbers, we cannot afford a situation of people moving in their own cars. That is just not possible. That's why sometime in 2006, the country adopted a policy that we will invest heavily in mass transport systems, because that's what we need in the years to come. We can't go on with just using personal motor vehicles. That policy has guided decisions that the country has made from thereafter. New policies have come up which have focused on what do we do with mass transit systems. They focused on mass transit systems. You had policies that focused on integrating land use and transport systems. So that's the kind of trend the country has been taking, because we realize that mass transit is very important for us. Over and above that, the country has also come up with certain new forms of mass transit which are unique to its own requirements. It is unique to its own kind of situation, which we feel many other countries will also have a similar situation. So some of these technologies may be useful in other countries also, where the situation is close to what is there in India. India itself offers great opportunities for investments because many cities are going ahead with mass transit systems. So with this little background, let me sort of go past the panel and introduce the panel itself. I'll first go to Mr. Jaydeep. Jaydeep heads the urban transport function in the national government. So everything that happens on urban transport in the national government in cities, that's all led by Jaydeep. The question to you, Jaydeep, is that India is building several mass transit systems, including metro rail systems, including new forms like Metro Light, Metro Neo, a number of new systems. You've also been building bus rapid transit systems. Very recently, you are thinking of introducing a program which will also promote the use of better buses in the country. Could you give us a little landscape of what's happening in the country? What's the kind of opportunity that exists in the country? Over to you.
Am I audible? Yes. Sir, there is a small presentation. If with your permission, I can show you. topic of today's session is sustainable and smart urban transport system. I will briefly touch upon what Government of India thinks how this urban transport system should be like. As OP Agrawal sahab has mentioned that urban population is growing at a very fast pace. Something should be done. Otherwise, we will not be able to afford so much of private vehicles on our road. So I will briefly touch upon that some of the policy initiatives which has been taken by our ministry. First is NUTP, that is National Urban Transport Policy 2006. This policy is grand norm of all the urban transport policy which have been issued subsequent to it, because it envisages that this public transport system should be encouraged and with less use of private vehicles. Then our metro policy 2007 is there, 2017 is there, which gives a complete ecosystem of development of metro system in the country. It has many things and it gives lot of flexibility to the states to adopt different kind of models, different type of financial assistance system, alternative modes, the modes which should suit to our requirement. Then integration of transport and land use, that is transit orient development policy, which is very essential for any mass rapid transit system. This kind of policy we look for, that the city or state should have a proper transit orient development policy. Then value capture financing framework, it improves the financial viability of any mass rapid transit system project because it is very cost incentive. Unless and until the value addition of the property which takes place whenever a mass rapid transit system is developed, unless that return is given to the metro company or SPV or state government, this cannot be sustainable. Then we have comprehensive mobility plan, that every mass rapid transit system wherever it is being planned, it should have CMP. Then service level benchmarking. All these policies, the basic aim is pupil centric. Then we have to make our transport system most energy efficient, most efficient in every aspect. Not only energy, as far as financial viability is concerned, it should be most efficient system. Then plan the system according to the geographical requirement of the city. Then as far as, if you see this graph, this is growth of metro rail system in the country. If you see, in 1984 we started our journey in Kolkata between Esplanade and Bhawanipur. It was 3.4 kilometer section. By 2002, two cities were covered, Delhi and Calcutta. And we reached 25 kilometer of landmark. In 2014 it was 248 kilometer. Then if you see this graph, this is going steep. Government is now this metro development is the major thrust area of the government. If you see, in last 7 years 485 kilometer of the line has been operationalized and more than 1000 kilometer line is under construction. Then prior to COVID, we were carrying 8.5 million passengers per day in all our metro network. Then we have also this regional rapid transit system coming up, which is Delhi Merit. I will be covering in my subsequent slide. Then this is regional rapid transit system. As you know that cities, the boundaries of the cities are also now expanding. So for the persons who are living far away from the cities, major city center, there should be a medium that they should come to the main city center and go back to their places on the same day. That is why we are developing a regional rapid transit system. 3 corridors have been planned in the first phase. first corridor between Delhi and Meerut, which is a 82-kilometer length network. It is under construction and it is likely to be functional by 2025, and a priority section is likely to be open next year by December 2022. Trains will be running at 160 kmph and signaling system will be ETCS level 2, and it is a high performance track is there, elevated section and underground section is there. It will be connecting Delhi to Meerut. And for development of these system, whether it is metro system, RRTS system, we are also standardizing the components.
2 minutes.
Yeah. Then we have this for a smaller city metro light kind of system. This is a cheaper variant of main metro system. It costs around 25% of the cost of the conventional metro system, because the coaches are of lower weight and it carries lesser number of passenger. Main metro system, it is axle load is 17 ton. This system is having axle load of 12 ton. That is why your civil structure cost also reduces. It will cost 40% of the cost of the conventional metro system. Station is also simpler in this case, because we are not going for concourse, because the passenger which we can carry per peak hour peak direction traffic is 15,000. And the metro network, the proposals which have been received, this Rithala, Narela, then Jammu, Srinagar and Gorakhpur is under active consideration. They are under the advanced stage of approvals. Then another system which is being standards have been developed by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It is Metro Neo system. If requirement passenger peak hour peak direction traffic is up to 8,000, cities can opt for this system. It is nothing but a tire based kind of system. It is a trolley bus system running on a dedicated right of way. The cost of this system, because of lower axle load of 10 ton, the cost of civil structure is still lower. It is 25% of the cost of the conventional metro system. The proposals which have been received is from Nasik. Nasik under active consideration. Warangal and Dehradun DPR has been received. Then another system which is coming up in the city of Kochi is water metro, because there is water body inside the district and there are canals also there. This type of system will be connected with the main metro system. It will have air conditioned boats and electrical propulsion system, not diesel driven propulsion system, and it is an eco-friendly system, and it is being developed with the loan assistance from KfW. And this system is likely to be ready by December 2021. One or two boats will be commissioned, and it will have seamless connectivity from this boat station to the metro station, and NCMC card is also there. You can have a seamless ticket system between main metro system, Kochi metro system and water metro system. Then urban buses, we have 50,000 buses population. Then we have BRTS network, 450 kilometer, 11 cities. And in NAM scheme, we have added 18,000 buses. There are certain reforms which I will not cover because paucity of time. Another thing which is coming up is bus funding scheme, which has been announced as the present budget of Honorable Finance Minister. It is a total 2,400 million US dollar scheme, in which there are two segments. One is bus development, which will be and intelligent transport system, national common mobility card. All new lines which Metro is developing is coming on national common mobility card on platform. Then ITS system on BRTS. Then integrated command and control center has element of urban transport that is also being implemented in 100 cities. And these are the focus area of our ministry, that it should create efficient, seamless and conventional mobility. And we are providing funds for such mass rapid transit system, Government of India providing assistance. Then adoption of improved technology, that I have already covered. Then priority to non-motorized system, that this scheme is coming. It has one element of giving priority to non-motorized. This is one element of green urban mobility. Then land use integration, that is TOD policy. Then increase private participation, whether it is metro system, deployment of bus, we are encouraging private participation. Thanks. Yes.
Thanks, Jaideep. We'll come back to some questions at the end if there need be, but what Jaideep has presented is an array of the kind of things going on in the country, not just for the large cities, but also smaller cities in the country, which may not need such expensive systems. There are other alternatives which are being designed. Obviously, what he's saying is we are looking at different things that are possible. So this is the opportunity. I think the interesting thing that he ended up with is also looking at private sector participation in operating these systems. So this is again something to possibly pick up from. Now with that, let me move to Mr. Brajesh Dikshit. Brajesh has been, he's building metro systems in 3 cities in one of the states. So most others have got, one company which is building a metro in a single location. But Maharashtra, which is one of the large states in India, is building metros in 3 different cities, probably take up more of them. So he's managing all of them put together. It's known as Maha Metro, not Pune Metro or Nagpur Metro or something is called Maha Metro. He's managing all of them and has also been the person behind creating some of these new and unique technologies which are suitable to the Indian context, in particular the Metro Neo that Jaideep spoke about. Can you tell us something about these new technologies, what they mean? Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, all of you. Jaideep spoke about a wonderful metro system coming up in India. Our top 25 cities are being covered with almost about 17 to 1800 kilometers of conventional metros. And for some time, we have been struggling with developing a mass transit system for our smaller cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities. While Jaideep spoke about the progress so far, I'll take you back to the India in 1947, at the time of independence. We did have trams in India at that time. And up to almost about up to 70s, we continued with them. And then the situation on the ground created situations where we started removing trams. While in Europe and other countries, new trams are coming up and the old trams are continuing. India developed some other situations. Our personal transport with 2-wheelers and 4-wheelers number went so much that trams could no longer share the roads with other modes of transport. And then came Calcutta, where we made first metro, underground metro. But as you know, that the cost of those metros is such, and capacity also is higher. Our smaller cities, where the PHDT of Jaideep mentioned about 8,000 to 15,000, they don't justify a metro. And as Dr. Arwal just said, we came out with our own solution, Indian solution of the Indian problem, which we are happy to share you today. And may I play rather than trying so many words, I would share with you a video conveying the real concept behind it.
Maha Metro presents Metro Neo, an innovative and cost-effective mass transport solution for Tier 2 and 3 Indian cities. Metro Neo is a rubber-tired, bi-articulated electric coaches running on dedicated right-of-ways, either on elevated or at grade corridors. The coaches can run on overhead traction and also on internal battery where OHE is not feasible. Metro Neo transport system can cater PHPDT of 8,000 and expandable up to 10,000. Lighter rolling stock leads to lower axle load, resulting in lighter viaduct, smaller and smarter elevated stations. Articulated coaches are capable of negotiating sharp turns and steeper gradients. No AFC gates, no platform screen doors, no track. These features of Metro Neo make it more cost efficient than conventional metro and provide safety, quality, punctuality and comfort at par with conventional metros at almost one-third of its cost. Level building, anti-collision features, automatic fare collection, display and communication systems. Elevated Metro Neo stations shall be world-class, so sleek with design roofs, free-flowing and easily accessible to deaf people. Accessibility platforms will be using elevators and stairs for all the passengers, with escalators if necessary. Automatic fare collection with ticket validating machines will be installed at the platforms, enabled by National Common Mobility Card, interoperable on open loop payments like parking, feeders, e-rickshaws, retail payments. Tap to ride concept fare collection will be used for easy and efficient ticketing. QR code tickets shall also be available in mobile applications, ticket machines, or ticket offices in the station. And announcements on coach arrival and departure. Aesthetic articulated rubber-tired electric coaches made with safe technology. 18 or 24 meter length. Coaches shall be provided automatic train protection and equally system with utmost passenger safety. Let us welcome Metro Neo, a clean, green, convenient next generation transport system of a new India. A simple and smart system. Metro Neo by Maha Metro.
So it's a rubber-tired metro, and what really differentiates it, number one, it has dedicated right-of-way, and number two, it is eco-friendliness and smartness, which we are depending mostly on smart technologies to run the system.
Thanks, Prajesh. I think that's a very interesting technology which will be not only suitable for a number of cities in India, but to my mind, something that other cities around the world which are similarly placed, like India, may find that attractive. I'm saying this more because most of the urbanization or the growth is going to happen in Asia or in Africa. And mass transit systems are yet to be built there. These are things that they may want to think of as not just looking at high-cost metro systems or just bus systems, but there are intermediates which can fill in different kinds of cost capacity gaps. That's the kind of thing that this has come up with. I think the interesting thing about it, to my mind, is that it's not just a transport system, it's an integrated system, which integrates the vehicle with the stations, with the information technology, with the land use. That's what I think really makes a mass transit system worthwhile. So thanks very much. We'll come back to this. Let me now move to Mr. Dhariwal. Your company has come up with a very interesting technology known as the Hyperloop. Something that I feel can transform a lot of mobility needs around, at least in Indian cities. A lot of mobility needs can be transformed if this really gets into play in a big way. But can you give us a little bit on where it stands right now, where it's functioning, what is the outlook, some of its features?
Sure, thank you very much, Dr. Agrawal. I think I'm not going to play any videos or slides today because there's a lot of information that's already out there on various media sources. So what I wanted to be able to do is really focus on some of the questions questions and engage and look forward to the questions and answers today. I want to start from the beginning. The technology was founded on the back of a white paper that was released by Elon Musk back in 2013 when he was stuck in traffic. So it's actually very opportune that we're talking about sustainable modes of mobility and cities and smart cities when the whole idea originated from him being stuck in his car in San Francisco and him actually thinking, well, there must be better ways of actually traveling, much more effective ways and efficient ways of traveling.
Closer to you.
Sorry. So he then sort of started to think about this and decided to go back to a principle that's been around for 150 years. Trains within tubes is not something new. If you go right back to the very first Expo at Crystal Palace, I think it was in 1870, they actually had a pneumatic railway, which actually operated for 5 years post the Expo at that period. So having tubes and having trains in them and then using air or taking air out has been around for a while. So on the back of that, our company was formed in 2014. Since then, we've grown. We have about 300 people that work for us, mainly in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas, and in the Middle East, where we cover also India from here as well and Asia. But all of that effort is focused on research and development. We're the only organisation to actually have developed our own full-scale facility, and we've carried out 500 tests, which culminated in addressing two key things last year. One was, and the question I get asked all the time, has anybody been in it? And secondly, is it safe? And on the 20th of November, we actually had the first passengers in the world to actually ride a Hyperloop system in a full vacuum environment, full scale. We reached speeds up to just shy of 200 kilometers an hour, but the facility is very small. It's actually 500 meters. So the ability to be able to accelerate, decelerate, and prove that all the systems, control systems, levitation systems, propulsion systems, were all working in a certified manner was very, very important, I think, for us. More importantly, moving on to India, we are new to India. We've been working in India since 2017. When we came to India and we had our launch, and that was in February 17, and we launched our vision for India. And that was to have a connected India, the ability to be able to use new technologies where we're crossing from space, aerospace, and high-speed rail to enable India to have connectivity like never before. And that is all tier 1 cities connected in under 2 hours. Imagine what that would do for India, for opportunity, for economics, for connectivity. But more importantly, I was saying earlier on, it's more than just technology and speed. And even though we were able to hit top speeds just below the speed of sound, I'm going to give you an example. One of the key projects we've been working on is in Maharashtra, in between Mumbai and Pune. That's 140 kilometers. That currently takes 3.5 hours on the expressway, which is a real good road, but still 3.5 hours. That would be broken down to 25 minutes using our technology. Now that is 25 minutes following, by and large, the expressway and using as much land as we can, which is already in public ownership. If we actually were given the opportunity to go in the most optimum route, we would have broken that down to about 14 minutes. Now, what does that do for cities? What does that do to the opportunity that creates? It enables Pune and Mumbai to act as one. And as I was saying, Dr. Agarwal, we were talking about this. What does it do? It also creates other opportunities. For example, in transport, where there's a brand new airport being built in Navi Mumbai. There's an opportunity for that project to connect into that. There's already a lot of dialogue that's gone on, and there is actually allowances been made to do that as an option. But it also means that Pune may not need an extra airport. So there is a spin-off into what does this mean to the aviation industry? Yeah. More importantly, I think, let's move broader than that. And what does it mean to cities? Well, when we consider the migration crisis, where India's tier 1 cities will grow from 350 million up to 600 million by 2030, India also has an unenviable record at the moment for having 4 of the most congested cities on the planet located there, 3 of them in the top 5. Bangalore being the most congested city on earth, and taking at least 70% longer to do an average journey on any average day. So when we consider those factors and what does that mean? Well, looking at our system where we are now using between 5 to 10 times less energy than you would, or more efficiency, sorry, than an aircraft. You are using up to about 40% less energy than you would on a high-speed train, but at twice the speeds. The ability to be able to then not have any kind of emissions, and ultimately in off-peak periods, the ability to be able to use and harness renewable energies to run that system, and in off-peak periods to be able to regenerate some of that energy back into the system, creates a mass transport system where it's not just taking energy out, because what we are now doing is we're connecting in real time into the smart city data. So we're now predicting what the required demands are on our system. So not only is this a system that is technically advanced, but actually it puts the passenger at the heart of it. For the first time, we are now developing systems that are not just purely for cargo, albeit cargo is going to be the first thing in our process as we go up and mature up to carrying passengers by the end of the decade. So hopefully that sort of addresses part of the question.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Mr. Dhariwal. Let me now move to Mr. Ayman Ashur. You've sort of seen mass transit systems across the world. You've got a sense of what's happening in many other parts of the world. What I would like to get from you is, what is your sense of some lessons that we in India can learn from what has happened in the rest of the world? What is it that others can learn from what we've done well? If you were to say, this is what you should pick up in India from what's happened at A, B, and C, or the other way around, what would be your suggestions?
Thanks, Dr. for that opportunity. I think the most important thing for us in Siemens is to make sure what we are doing is exactly matching our vision and also your expectation. And if I look from the global perspective, there is some examples which I see it really can be a cross-country reference for each other. And here I have brought with me one example from what we have done in London Underground from the Piccadilly line. And if you allow me, I can just quickly run through. As correctly has been highlighted by the colleagues, we have a huge trend. We have to deal with different challenges. We have to look to different perspectives. And the classical way of doing the transportation is not going to happen or going to help us for the future. If we look here, we are talking about a huge amount of data is being available for us now. What would be the benefit of this data? This data is not being created now. It's happening every day in all the technology systems. And what we decided in Siemens to do is to get the benefit out of this data, how we can improve what you have now. Also, when we look to demographic changes, as you correctly highlighted, Doctor, there is a huge number of global cities where the number of population is really going very fast up. And we are talking about a population by 2050, which will be roughly 9.7 billion inhabitants in this planet. They simply need to move. Every one of us in the morning, wake up, he has to move in certain direction. Be it going to work, going to school, going to study, whatever, he has to do something. And of course, with this climate challenges, what we are facing here, I think the journey has to be properly planned, and it should be economically also planned. And this is what we are looking at Siemens. Also, we look about the global perspective of urbanizations, and we see that we'll have 70% of those people who are waking up every day in the morning, they need a convenient and affordable way of transportation every day. Having said that, we said, okay, what can we do differently in Siemens? It's not only about getting a technology solution and sell it to somebody and getting some money out of it. We have presented to the world the first electrified train ever in the world. And this was more than 160 years ago. And this was just a starting from our perspective. When we look here, this example, I think we all familiar with London Underground network with its own speciality of how to handle the demand with infrastructure, which is still, let's say, have a certain level of demands in terms of availability to the population in London City, and also in terms of the fast movement of the people around the city. And when we have been advised or invited by the authorities there to look to this line, we said, okay, before we start to talk about what do you need to purchase for the future, let's see what you can afford more with your existing investment, what you have. And we did our analysis at Siemens, and we found that we can increase the capacity by simply, as I mentioned before, treating the information what we have in a better way. So we take a big number of data every day, we analyze it. We also look to the operational cost or the OPEX and see how this can be more efficient. So we develop in Siemens a platform, what we call it Railgent platform. And this is taking care especially for the rolling stock. We need to know the status of the rolling stock. You don't need to wait until you have a failure and then you pull the train to the depot and start the maintenance activities. No, we are telling to the operator in advance, there is a potential failure which could happen at this location. And this is from your network perspective, the nearest depot where you can handle this solution. So we'd recommend that you go for maintenance from this time to this time before the failure actually occur. And this is affecting the availability of the train. This was step number one. Step number two was, okay, when you have this information, you get the train to the facility for the maintenance, how you can make benefit of this information. So you don't want to bring a train to the depot and the material is not ready or the stuff is not ready. So what we decided, we also link all of this to a, let's call it a global platform of spare parts, which simply the train will arrive like you are going to your restaurant, you make a pre-reservation, you are expecting when you arrive to find the food ready on the table somehow after the first drink. You will feel boring if you have to wait too long to get your plate, yeah? This exactly, we treat the train like that. Train will arrive there, we'll find what is needed, we'll find the stuff, we'll find the material. By doing this, we make a higher number of availability. Then we said, okay, what do you need more? When we analyzed the fleet, we found that the fleet have extra components, which was driven with the technology, I would say a little bit outdated, and it's a heavyweight technology. So you have a higher level of power consumption, and also you have more load to handle on the track, which is affecting the track maintenance itself. So what we decided for the new recommendation we got for Piccadilly line, we provided more than 90 trains with a lighter weight because we use different type of component, and those components affecting also the affordable operational hour speed. And if we combine this together, we end up that we manage for the customer to increase the capacity for the same network with the same number of fleet by 10%. And with the new fleet, what we are optimized, we are managed to bring this availability up to 15 to 20% more. This means that there is 15 to 20% more people every day in the morning or in the late afternoon when they are going home. There is an affordable, convenient way to go back to their home or next destination. And this, I believe, can be simply duplicated or replicated in India because you have a huge advantage in India. You know very well, you have very, very well know about how to handle the software platforms, and this is software-driven solution. You have a very high level of qualified people who are capable to make benefit of this data. And we as Siemens trust too much in India. We are also developing our own development center for some technologies like signaling also in India based on that. Last but not least, it's not only about the rolling stock. The infrastructure also have a big impact on the cost. So what we decided in Siemens is to take a lot of equipment, which you are building every station, every interlocking in one room. We take it out from reality, we just put it in the cloud, as simple as that. So we managed to cut down the infrastructure impact. And this, I believe, can be a successful example to be implemented in India. Other way around, I see very good ideas from the colleagues, what they have presented, which also can benefit from the countries where we are looking for. I'm personally in charge for in Africa or Middle East about those elevated, I would call it light metro or a BRT, but it also has a demand and can achieve a certain capacity for the interest of the countries. So I think it's both way direction of communication and it's beneficial for all parties. And this will be my message for what the globe can bring to India and what can India bring to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. essentially what I'm getting from this is there's a lot of space for optimizing existing capacity itself. There's a lot that you can get out of existing systems. That's something that you may want to leverage. I think we'll have a time for another second round of very quick responses to some of the questions that I will have. Let me again start with Jaideep. You've heard about a number of new technologies. You know, Metro Neo you've already spoken about, but there is Hyperloop that Mr. Dhariwal spoke about. There are other things that are being talked about, like personal rapid transit systems, new technologies that will probably evolve as we get along to look at situations that we have in India and many of the developing countries. What is the view of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in India in bringing some of these technologies into the market? What are this thinking of the ministry around that, if you can give us some light?
As far as metro is concerned, it will be confined to the major city center. I have discussed about metro light technology. This has come because people are asking, because wherever metro has been provided, it has really transformed the city. With demands coming in, it is not possible to construct metro everywhere. That is why we have come with the solution of metro light. Metro light is nothing but a tramway kind of system running on a dedicated right of way, whether it is a grade section or elevated section. And it has really created interest in tier 2 cities, and we are getting proposal from there, which I have mentioned in my slide. Other technology which Mr. Dixit has mentioned about Metro Neo, which is also coming in a big way. And it is just a trolley bus running on a dedicated right of way. And as far as volume of the business is concerned, Hyperloop is coming up, which Mr. Dhaliwal has mentioned. It is coming up. This Pune Mumbai line phase 1 is going on, then phase 2 will come, but definitely it is future technology. Definitely, if we are going to connect, our urban centers are expanding, and if we want to provide a faster connectivity between point A to point B, or I was mentioning when I was sitting in the launch that if there are 2 airports in city, then that solution can come, but it is under development. As far as our kitty is concerned about these projects, as far as metro, which are the projects which are currently under construction, that I'm talking about our national infrastructure pipeline, $32 billion projects are currently under construction, and another $28 billion project is under planning stage, which is likely to come very soon. So this gives up enough opportunity, whether it is civil infrastructure, rolling stock, signaling system, electrical mechanical system, it will come in a big way. That's from it.
So essentially what you're saying is that apart from existing technologies, the ministry is open to looking at new technologies that may prove themselves, and your existing regulations will be able to take care of these. That's so there is an openness to whatever new technologies, given the type of cities that we have. Let me now move to Rajesh. Rajesh, you talked about the Metro Neo. I'm now pulling away from there and getting to something that you have done. You know, Nagpur Metro, which you are heading, has done an amazing job of integrating the metro with other things. A lot of people say that it's not just the metro that can prove successful, but only when the metro is integrated with other modes of transport that you can get people from point of origin to point of destination. A metro by itself doesn't do that, only when it's integrated. And recently, you got an award for having done excellent work on this in Nagpur. Can you tell us a little more about this, how you went about it? What is it that you've done which maybe others can learn from what you've done in Nagpur?
Thank you. Construction of metros in India has been of recent origin, as he said and I mentioned. Basically, it's an infrastructure meant for the people, but the people live at home and they work in their offices and their factories. Question is, how to connect metro to them. So that precisely what Dr. Agarwal asked, and that is what we could do in Nagpur, connecting people through other modes of transport. Now, those modes of transport could be a bike sharing scheme, a e-scooter, it can be e-rickshaws, what we have in India, e-autos, auto rickshaws are there in India. We can have battery minivans, we can have city buses rescheduled to take care of the revised needs of people to metro, because earlier the people used to have their own routes, but now they have to come first to the metro stations, and then from metro stations they have to go to their workplaces. So these are the various options, but the metro stations themselves have to have the infrastructure first to handle this. So along with making metro lines and metro stations, we took up the provision of this infra along with the metro. So right from the inception, we provided this infra, means proper parking should be there, bike sharing scheme places should be there, drop off and pick up point should be there, and then if there is a airport nearby, it should be connected to airport. If there is an intercity bus terminus, it should be connected to the intercity bus terminus. A city bus stop should be there, and so on and so forth. So first is providing infrastructure and then providing the service. Now, as far as service is concerned, we in Nagpur Metro, what we did, that service we are providing through various MOUs. Now, there are MOUs with the city municipal corporation, there are MOUs with the private operators who are operating the bike sharing, who are operating e-scooters, auto rickshaws, and even city buses, where the municipal corporation is providing the services. So we have done the infra, then we have done the MOUs, and our Nagpur Metro is still at about 60% of its network, and the remaining 40% is under construction. So while we are still under construction, in the portion which we have started operations, we have started connecting to the people, and there has been very good response. I will happily share with you. So that way we have created an example wherein people are directly connected to the metros even from the inception. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think the message
And
is...
I can show a very small video of 1 minute,
Okay.
if you permit. It's there.
Nagpur is the third largest city in Maharashtra and is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Multimodal integration is being implemented for all metro stations. This includes pick-up and drop-off bays for buses, IPT, e-rickshaws, Divyangjan, private vehicles, and dedicated parking for bicycles, two-wheelers, Divyangjan, four-wheelers at all metro stations. MOUs have been executed for the implementation of public bicycle, e-bicycle, e-scooter, e-rickshaw, feeder buses, and integration of existing autos by Mahametro. Nagpur Municipal Corporation has rationalized buses on 6 feeder routes as per request of Mahametro. Also, 22 buses have been diverted through Sitabardi interchange to provide connectivity to non-metro areas. Mahametro has launched shuttle service between Airport Metro Station and Nagpur Airport and vice versa to provide seamless connectivity to all air passengers. Mahametro has signed an agreement with Messrs Energy Efficient Services Limited (EESL) for installation and operation of EV charging systems at all metro stations. Mahametro has developed a 100-meter demonstration of NMT facility at a metro station. All concerned stakeholders have been requested to construct this facility on the metro corridor. By this way, Mahametro is facilitating the provision of first and last mile connectivity and integrating public transport in Nagpur.
Thank you very much. I think the message I'm getting from this is no city has solved the problem of congestion by building a project. They have only done it by creating a system. And a system has multiple things coming together. I think that's what you've tried to do in Nagpur. I'm happy to say that they recently got the award, the best prize for the most integrated system in the Urban Mobility India, which is the largest urban mobility conference in India. So congratulations to you for that. Let me now move again to Mr. Dhariwal. We were speaking about the Hyperloop. And some of the questions that I'm going to ask you, you answered in your previous response, but maybe you can say a little more about this. I think this kind of a high-speed system has the ability to make major transformations, not just in connecting airports, but connectivity of a region, major transformations. Can you tell us what is your thinking behind this? What has been your motivation in the big change that a technology like this can bring?
Again, I think it's a great question, I think, Chairman. When we started looking at this, and I said this earlier on, sometimes we get tagged with just being something which is very fast, A to B, okay, and we're a transport system. But when you are at the forefront of technology, it creates a lot of other opportunities. And I'm going to, use the example of Mumbai Pune, because that's a project where we've done the DPR. The facts and figures are available to everyone there to look at that, analyze it. But that's between the state and ourselves. So what does that do? First of all, not only does it create a very quick link, which means that all of a sudden, imagine you are now living in Pune or Mumbai, and suddenly what does that do for you? I leave my family on a Monday and I don't see them again till a Friday. Or I spend 7 hours a day traveling between the two. That's not the quality of life that you want. What you are trying to do, and what the government of India is trying to do right now, is there's a number of items, and we want to make sure that transportation is aligned with the government's thinking. And that is to, first of all, create opportunity. It's to be able to create and address energy resilience. It's to be able to address the issue on migration. It's to be able to provide and improve the environment that we're in, right? So if those are the top agendas for every leader in India, politician in India, then how do we fit into that? Because if you don't fit into that, then you are not going to really get far, because you're not really aligned with priorities. So for us, first thing is that it's not only about A to B high speed, but it's actually about creating those opportunities. That the socio-economic benefit of a new technology being adopted and then implemented is pretty immense. 36 billion is actually the gross value add, the uplift from our project, just one project, okay? If you then add that creates opportunities and jobs. In the first 4 years, it would create 16,500. In the midterm of the concession agreement, it would create about 128,000. In the long term, right, over the lifetime of the concession, but the way the concessions that we're looking at with the state and the government now are not short term, 25, 30 years, because of the amount of investment. And by the Mumbai Pune is a 100% privately financed project. We do not require any kind of investment from the government other than land approvals, regulation, certification. Yeah, so it is a partnership, big partnership, but it doesn't require it. But what it does do is create 1.8 million jobs, up to 1.8 million jobs from adjacencies. And what I mean by that is 74% of the components that we need for that system can be sourced in India. 70% of them can be sourced within that state. So if you just put that into play, and then you start saying, right, okay, what is this project about? It's not just about transportation. It's actually about building a new industry for India.
Thanks very much. I mean, to me, it's mind-boggling. If a 3.5-hour journey can be converted to 14 minutes, the way I look at it is, can you imagine Mumbai and Pune being merged together into one city? That's effectively what you've tried to do. To me, it's mind-boggling. I can't even begin to think about the implications this can have. We're all looking forward to this coming up and seeing what it can do. Let me now move to Mr. Ashur for the last question. Very quick question that I have for you is, we've talked about mass transit systems, all kinds of mass transit systems. But if you were to think of what would you classify as a successful mass transit system, on what basis would you say a certain system is successful or not successful? What would that be?
For me, the first factor is what is the added value this working? Can you hear me? Okay. The first factor is what is the added value for this society where we are building this project? Yeah, because we believe in Siemens, the company doesn't contribute to society, doesn't deserve to be existed. So first, what is the impact to the society? Second, how many people will be willing to make use of this investment or facility provided by us? And here I'm not talking about a specific layer of the society. We are aiming to target all the layers of the society. Every one of us investing part of his lifetime just for moving from place A to place B. And no one of us is willing to spend a couple of hours for a distance which can be afforded in one of our solution in maybe few minutes or maybe 50% of the traveling time. This is the first part. The second is this facility is accessible to the majority of those members of society? Yes, there will be different, I would say, interest if you compare to the student, to the workers, to the officials in the government. And this is the point where both parts has to work together. The provider of the technology and the government of the state. Because you have to tell us very clearly, this is my aim of this project. And then we give you, as Siemens, our recommendation, our advices. And then we merge together and make a proper planning before we start. When we start this execution, I have also to think about how much this facility will cost you as a state. Because I might give you something fantastic like what we have done before in different places, but will not suit for each country. If I offer you now that I would like to build a maglev like what we did for China, and in a certain area which you have a transportation of 7 minutes from the city to the airport, this will cost you X billion of US dollars. But does your society is ready for that? Are we building a transportation mode for a specific layer of the society? This is the question what we have to answer in advance. And last but not least, what is the impact out of these solutions in the environment of your city and in your country? We don't want to bring a solution which will affect the environment, and this is what we are standing for in Siemens. We decided already that we will reach a zero carbon solution for the entire Siemens products by 2025. This is happening, it's not a plan. Yeah, and on top of that, we have to think about what is the impact of the society in terms of stability also, because I don't want to go and say I would like to have the right of way deducted in this way, and please remove 10,000 houses and destroy 20 buildings. I have to think with you what will be the less negative, impactful solution. And I believe all the government are aiming for providing a good service with an affordable cost in a reasonable time. This is the measure, the KPIs for the success. It's not only about how much is the order and how much profit we are doing out of it. This is not what we do in Siemens.
Thank you. I think that's very well said. I mean, I've often tried to oversimplify these things and said that for a mass transit system to be successful, how well it has been built, how clean it is, how reliable it is, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is how many people are using it. If your system is not good, no one will use it. And what is good for you may not be good for them. So really the metric is how many people are really using your system. But having said that, we've had an audience that's been listening to us for over an hour. And if any of you have questions for any of the panelists, this is really the time. Please.
Good morning, everybody. My question is to the government. There are existing number of cars and two-wheelers in every house. How are you going to encourage them to use the public transport? Because the roads are not wider, the roads are getting congested by the day, and what incentive will you give them so as to give up their personal transport? That will help most in our country. That's my question to him.
Your question is very, very relevant. What is what we can give to them that they don't use their personal vehicle. If my transport system is reliable, punctual, and safe, secure, comfortable, then I can ensure that people use my transport system. If you see examples of metro system which has been developed in the country, in Delhi, if you go to the past, there were so many vehicles. People were not using any, there was no mass. Then few years, the increase in the case. Pre-COVID, we were running 6 million passengers per day. And if you see, I have traveled in the buses of Delhi when metro was not there. It was overcrowded. And sometime, even from the office to my home, I use this metro system because it is very, very punctual, safe, secure, comfortable. Why people will not use, and affordable also. And metro system in India are very, very affordable as compared to other parts of the country. That is why other cities, I have mentioned that even smaller cities are asking for metro system because it transforms the system. Because your petrol prices are going up. If I am providing a good transport system, why people will not come? And it is affordable.
Okay. Let's any other, please.
See, last 1.5 year, because of the COVID, there is a lot of changes has taken place. For example, work from home. With the technology, many people are opting, many corporates are going for this particular mode of working. So is it going to impact your policy or your planning in future?
Definitely with COVID, what we were getting ridership, that was 8.5 million pre-COVID. Now it is around 3.5 million to 4 million. But this use of metro is increasing. Right now we are not able to carry so many passengers because of travel restrictions. If, in my opinion, this COVID will go, and I think we will have same ridership as we had earlier, more than that.
Actually, just to sort of supplement this, what will be the impact post-COVID? How many people who were using or going to work, pre-COVID, it came down during COVID, what the situation will be after COVID gets over, is still something that we're trying to find out. My organization itself, we found that all of us were working from home. We opened our offices and said that it's open if you want to come, no compulsions. We're seeing much greater enthusiasm in people wanting to come back because they want to meet their friends, want to meet their colleagues. I think 1.5 years of just working from home is... So my response would be that we've yet to find out what the results will be. But your question is still very valid. What will be the impact on these systems? We've yet to see. So someone there had...
So I just quickly answer his question. This is me. Yeah.
Can I go to whoever had raised the hand first and then come to you? Please.
This question is to Mr. Dhaliwal. Sir, mind-boggling.
No. Why don't you take the mic?
This question is to Dhaliwal Saab. Mind-boggling 14 minutes, sir. So question 2 part A. When will this 14 minutes be realized to us? When do we see you? Second, now this Virgin Hyperloop is a reality. You have boldly said that you don't want anything from the government except the land. So there are many places in India which are welcoming you. So which is the second plan that you would like to share with us on this podium today?
Thank you very much. First question, when will it be realized? I just want to go back to the 14 minutes. The 14 minutes is if we had no restriction on land and we were just going in straight lines on the optimum alignment, okay? The actual timing is 25 minutes. And that is because we're optimizing land, yeah? Process and a plan in play to enable us to develop and certify and get the technology approved. So that is what we call phase 1 of the project. And that phase 1 of the project will be in a location that we've already identified, I think, with the government. But we've got to first of all get that done, and that's going to take about 4 years. And then what we want to be able to do is start moving cargo through there. Okay. And then as we get more and more confident and we actually increase speeds, because there's all kinds of modes of operation that we will use to build up and get levels of confidence that we need to enable us to get higher and higher operational speeds and capacities. Once we get there, then we are aiming to have commercial passenger operations by the end of this decade. Okay, so I think that should answer that question. Second project, second project, we're also working in Bangalore, and we're looking at airports and aviation and the opportunity to be able to create links between airports and to be able to look at virtual regional hubs and improve capacities without actually having to build all the infrastructure that's required. And I think that's a fascinating area. Not just in India, all over the world. The aviation industry is starting to face and starting to realize that. And I think, for us, that's one. Then we're also talking about further on. We have other projects.
So let me
go there. You were answering the question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
No, very quickly. So we move people between home and on a regular basis. So the question is about 10% is likely to come by end of year, 25 to 50 March, and 200 between July and December of next year. This is what companies are planning for.
Okay.
So we have access to that because we are moving these people. So
what you're saying is you are seeing people coming back.
They are coming back because of holidays. It's being held back. The bubble of work from home will actually burst by next year because interest on both sides.
Okay.
Somebody builds the CAD, somebody starts, a large Infosys or Wipro starts, the rest will follow. Right.
Now this is actually very interesting. This is the kind of result we want to see. I mean, get a study done on what is happening. Otherwise, everyone asks this question.
So we deal with facility management on a regular basis. We have been told to keep everything ready for big launch by Jan.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Yeah. No, I have a question also. So combining these two, right? What I see happening with mass transit systems is that it puts immense pressure on the last mile. Okay, you will typically have hot. For example, Pune and Mumbai were to be connected by 14 minutes or even 1 hour, right? You are increasing the population that will travel. Right? It's like Pune population is going to get added to Mumbai population. It will put immense pressure on the last mile. Now, coming back to him, right? Whether it's Hyperloop or not doesn't matter. But I understand that you are enabling infrastructure at the end for large in terms of bikes and so on. But is there any unified proposal? We are trying to work with, we are already with the organizations for moving people are very strict in terms of on-time arrivals, departure, and so on. Is there any unified plan? Because we actually run shuttles. We actually try to run without any kind of coordination with the authorities so far, because there is a lag, right? I mean, I would hate to wait for 15 minutes, right? You could even run at 1 hour intervals, but if I have access to that, I might actually push people at that time, right? So is there any unified plan that does not put too much, it doesn't choke the last mile of the hotspots of your, mass transit?
Yeah, exactly. Unified, integrated system is the object.
So we have access to all the demand, right? We have access to all the demand of people moving from home to office because we are actually the system, the app that they use to actually make this movement. We are moving on cabs even during daytime only because of this last mile problem.
Absolutely.
So effectively, what is being said is really looking at two sides of the coin, fully understanding the demand and not just creating a system, but also fully understanding the demand and seeing how the system that you create is going towards meeting that kind of a demand.
Yes, just to give you a simple example, people move very regularly into the office, but they are very random when they come back from the office. Okay, so we have access to these patterns, and we actually design buses, cabs, and so on a very dynamic basis on a shift by every 15 minutes. Right?
I think this is
match the demand with supply.
Yes, it's called DRT, by the way, demand responsive transit. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. That is the point.
No, I think this is really an excellent thing that we need to learn about, in India also, because one thing that we are doing in India is creating the systems. It's much more the supply side that we are managing,
yeah,
not so much of looking at the demand side and trying to manage.
And also the last mile. because last mile
Yeah.
So when I
infrastructure
say
does
last
not
mile-
actually solve my problem.
No, what I'm saying, when I say demand, I mean including the
Yes,
last mile.
yes,
It's not
yes.
just the point to point kind of thing.
Yeah.
Your point is very well taken. I think that's
Yeah,
that's
thank you
something
for-
that we
thank
need
you
to
for
do.
highlighting.
Thank you very much for that.
I just want to elaborate a little bit, because I think technologies that are available to us now and the technologies that will be available to us in the future allow us to do predictive algorithms that allow systems to automatically start picking up the data that you're talking about, so we actually flex our systems in real time. And eventually what you are doing exactly is starting to match systems in an automated manner to demand patterns.
So the problem that I see with that approach is that it will be reactive with a lag, with a huge lag. We have actual access to demand. We don't even have to predict. We have access to demand. We also predict for next month, but we have access for the next day. This is like an Amazon for transport, right?
Sure.
You have people who have put in their tickets into my system, and we also predict the no-shows that will happen.
I think what we're saying here is that you're saying that there'll be a lag, but what I'm saying is that I think as we get more and more information and we start understanding it better, that lag will be addressed.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's going to happen to peak periods is I think that peak will start to actually drop off. So it goes back to your issue. At the moment, we have systems that are driven by work patterns at the moment. But I think what's going to happen is, I think as systems become more on demand, I think the peaks will change.
Yeah.
No, I fully appreciate the point you've made. I think it's absolutely essential. Otherwise, we are like people going like blind men, But I think this is
Because
really
from
what
supply responsive, my suggestion is
tell
to
me
go
one
to
thing. When you say we, which city are you referring to?
we are operational in 16 cities in India, including Nagpur.
Okay.
So we are the largest, home to office people movers. We have the technology. We are called
you
Route
should be talking to Mr. Dixit.
Yes, we launched in Nagpur for Infosys just last week. So we do that movement.
Anyone else? I don't see anyone else, so please. One, Mike, use the mic, please.
What is the future of this monorail system in urban transport? Because in Mumbai, we find that it is not.
With the experience of Mumbai, I don't think any new project are coming. Cities are preferring Metro Light and Metro Neo, because we are not able to run the services there in Mumbai. That is
I think you have the answer. Please. Please use the mic. Yeah.
Hello. Does the Hyperloop can it be used for cargo as well? Because Bombay Pune, 40% of the cargo feeding into the Bombay ports, including JNPT and the air cargo, more than 40% is coming out of Pune. So, and that is what is causing all the congestion on the highways.
I think that's first of all, thank you for reminding me. I mean, I just want to reinforce what I said earlier on. The first emphasis on what we're doing is going to be cargo. And we're exactly very aware, because our largest investor and our largest partner in India is DP World, Dubai Ports. And they're also a massive operator now. They're also the second largest freight rail operator in India. So we are very much aligned with cargo. Cargo will be our priority as we move forward. And then we'll move on to passenger at a later date in time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up. I think then it's time for us to close this session. Let me thank the speakers for okay, go ahead. This is the last one. So that
Okay, I heard what the government had to say, that all the responsibility on their shoulders to provide a good system. But when we go around the world, Singapore encourages less toll for people more than two who travel in a car. California and Los Angeles have a different pathway for people more than two in a car. And the tolls are quite demanding if you are a single driver in the whole car. So these sort of things can be adopted to put back the responsibility on the citizen to not use the private transport. Maybe these things could be adopted by you and the government, so that we also participate with your program of good transportation.
I think that's
it's a suggestion, and I we have noted it, but it's a wider decision to be taken by the government.
I just want to bring it to your notice.
So I just like to add to that. So now in Pune, I come from Pune, and there's a huge debate going on within the local government in the municipal corporation about a parking policy. You know, roads are public property, and people have to pay for parking on roads. It's not private property. So if you have a policy for parking and a differential policy, you know, like for different timings and premium hours and all that, see, all local governments all over the world get their largest revenue from property tax. Second revenue stream is from parking fees. See, in India, we don't have a parking policy in any city. So if there is differential parking, it would encourage people to use public transport. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. I think these are great examples. What both of you have given is really getting into the realm of demand management. So countries like Singapore, cities like Seoul, many of them have adopted measures that nudge people to move away from personal vehicles to public transport. I think these are things that are taking place in India. May not be with so much fanfare, but their own gentle ways. Delhi has recently announced a parking policy. Part of it is really looking at, you know, a kind of a parking fare which is linked to how long you've parked your vehicle for. You know, also linked to where the parking is. If it's close to a metro station, charge much more than if it is further away from a metro station. So I think these are beginning to happen. A recognition of demand management is beginning to happen in India. Do remember that one thing in India is that a fairly sizable percentage of our employment is in the auto industry. So for a policymaker, that is something they have to also think of. 50% of our manufacturing GDP comes from the auto sector. So you can't wish it away. It has to be a lot more gentle. So these are some of the challenges that we also face in India, and something that I'm sure Mr. Jaideep bears in his mind. He didn't sort of say it out in so many words, but he is aware of this. But I do acknowledge that it cannot be only supply management. There have to be some kind of demand management measures. May not be as tough as what you have in Singapore. I can't imagine a situation where we'll charge, have an auction system for buying a vehicle. Often what you pay is the cost of the car, and then a registration fee which is also equivalent to the cost of the car. I don't imagine that situation coming to India, at least in the near future. But gentle measures are beginning to take place. Many cities which had free parking are now beginning to charge for parking. May not be as much as they should, but at least it's a move in the right direction. But with that, let me thank the panelists. It was, for me, a very enlightening session. Thanks to the audience for being here, spending all the time with us. Thank you very much. Thanks to Fiki for organizing this for us. Thanks for the opportunity that you've given all of us to come here. Thank you very much.